rebuilding. A catastrophic failure, a new start. Physically, mentally, our careers, our businesses. Step back, first step, next step. The driver in me just wants to get it done tomorrow. We'll do this, do that, let's move this, where are we at with this? You build some confidence, build some self-esteem, start to feel better about yourself. The Silverback Blueprint Podcast, a show for men over 40 who focus on getting stronger, staying motivated, building discipline, creating a community, and becoming truly happy. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 133 of the Silverback Blueprint Podcast. Monitor your energy. I mentioned it in the last podcast that I found I was drifting away from my morning rituals and different things. And one of the things that has become very apparent to me in the last 2 weeks, pretty thick in the last 2 weeks. And again, this is around August that I'm recording this. You guys are hearing this sometime in October. Is that I could tell that I was just not myself, and I was just having some struggles. I got a lot of things going on, and that's great, and we all do, right? That's so I don't want this to come across as excuses as we come off that last episode, but there's also sort of like the state of the nation and where you're at and what's going on with things. So, you know, I'm ramping up for my heavy lifting. The season's I started that back in end of July. After my benching didn't go well for me last December, I decided I need to take a longer ramp up for my first meet of the season coming up in October. So by the time this comes out, probably within a few days of this episode, I'll be competing in Montreal at SSP Barbell for the CPF meet, the bench only, where I will be taking a run again at 600 pounds. So, you know, I'm a good 6-7 weeks back into the heavy lifting, and that has a bit of a kick in the pants on the nervous system. It beats me up a little bit, not injury-wise, but just working really hard, right, physically. Tuesday night, heavy lifting, Saturday or Sunday, secondary volume on my pressing. And as I get stronger and the lifts get heavier, it takes a little more toll on the nervous system overall, right? Really busy at the gym. Lots of things going on. We're in summer mode, so it's a little quieter in some aspects, but a lot of the behind-the-scene things are busier than ever. A lot of things happening. We've got a few changes in staff. And my big thing now is I don't rush into hiring staff. I find it's really cool, important lesson that I've learned is to be slow to hire, fast to fire, is the term that I like to follow on that. So I've been putting some more extra hours. That's some good English. Some more extra hours. Maybe put a comma in there. Been putting more hours in at the gym. And I'm not digging ditches, guys, so it's not like I'm working on the hot sun or on a roof or anything. Don't get me wrong, but it's time being on, right? We talk about downtime and being on when you're, you know, somewhere. And being my business, I want to be, you know, there for the clients when they come in. So I want my mood to be good. I want to engage them, you know, help them move towards their goals. You know, run the business, so you need to fire up a lot of energy. So again, another drain on the nervous system. And because I've got some early morning classes, opening the gym at 5:30, teaching at 5:45, and then sometimes I'm at the gym till 10:30, 11. You know, I'm not getting the greatest amount of sleep overall. I'm maybe averaging about 5-6 hours, and sometimes a little overstimulated by the time I get home. Take some time to unwind, and then getting up earlier again, right? And all that stuff is okay short term, but there comes a point in time where it starts to catch up to you, you know, that kind of thing. The Hostile Gear brand is it's exploding. The clothing demand is growing. The demand for the gear, the belts, the wraps, everything's moving very positive. A lot of projects that are sort of looming on the horizon. So very exciting. I feel very blessed to be back in this position in business after all these years of rebuilding, but it's starting to take a toll. And what I started to find is I was finding that I was just constantly tired and trying to search out that when can I get a nap? Can I get a nap at 1? Can I get a nap at 11? How long am I going to nap for? I found myself thinking about naps. Like I was, you know, becoming, I don't know, what's the word you look for when you focus on something too long? What's the word I'm looking for? No, I think the word's obsessed. I was getting obsessed. Like, when's my nap? And how long is it going to be and stuff? And I was thinking about, I'm tired. And I know I'm tired, so I need a nap. And I got all this stuff to do. So I really started getting that really started getting into my mindset. And then I found myself, my temper, and I was getting angry a lot. We talked a while ago about the HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And I was definitely hitting 3 out of 4. I definitely feel that. And just a state of overwhelmed. Just a lot of things happening, and then I feel like I'm not able to get back to people as fast as I want. I'm not able to resolve some of the issues. And I really noticed about 2 weeks ago, I caught myself fucking just putting fires out. And that's never a good sign. You're definitely not proactive anymore. You're reactive and tired. I'll say it again. I was fucking getting tired. Now, it kind of creeps up on me where I'm thinking, okay, it's because of the heavy training. That's the way it is when I start ramping up into the heavy lifting. Okay. But then I started saying, well, it's because of this. It's because of that. And it doesn't matter at what point what it's because. It's just sitting there realizing that my energy level was turning to shit. And then I just, I sat there a couple weeks ago, especially in the last week or so, and I'm like, all right, some changes have to happen. I don't know what they are right away, obviously, right? And that's the other thing, too. I think sometimes we feel we have to have the solution right away. And for me, I think it's much more important to become acutely aware that there's something wrong or off. Then you can sit down and start thinking about it. It's my favorite thing, pen and paper, start jotting down some notes, some brain dumps. When I started listing all the stuff I had to get done and I was behind on, I'm like, looking on a paper, I was like, holy fuck, I'm one guy. And then sitting back and realizing a lot of these things that I wasn't getting done was affecting things. People depending on me for certain things, customers depending on certain things. And the one thing I was really becoming super apparent to me is that time was going by faster and faster. So I'd sit there and say, oh, fuck yeah, I was supposed to do that last week. And then when I look at the dates, I'm like, holy fuck, it's 3 weeks ago I was supposed to do that. So what I basically did is I sort of just dug my heels in and I said, we're going to take a half a day. Because at this point, a half a day on or off is not going to make any difference as far as trying to get things resolved. And I sat there and I started planning out what are the things I need to do. And I kind of went backwards. I kind of reversed engineered it. And I said, okay, I need to get to 7 hours sleep. So what is that going to look like? What time do I have to work till? Because there's some things that are there's necessities. You can't just fucking drop everything either. That's the other thing too, right? That's not very responsible. The other thing I have to remember too is I've created my own mess, positive or negative, right? So I'm responsible for it. A little happy go coffee there. Even that I found I was behind on my coffee consumption. Behind on coffee and porn. I'm like, you know what? When those two things are getting neglected, you got to do something. So I said, right now I'm at the gym till 10. I can't really change that. But one of the things that was happening is that where I have my printing equipment and stuff, I would go after the gym and print for a couple hours because I share some space and I don't have access to the space during the day. It would be going at night. And that worked for a long time. I'm going to say almost a year and a half. But with the demand of our gear increasing and my time getting shorter to be able to get there, I started to fall behind. Or a meet would be coming up and I wasn't even prepared for it. Right? I didn't have enough stuff ready and those things, right? Which affects business, which affects the brand, the momentum. People come, they expect to be able to get stuff. Things that you work really hard to get to the point where you've got the demand growing for your products. And then all of a sudden you're having a hard time fulfill it and stuff. So one of the things I quickly realized is that I can't continue with this nighttime printing. So one of the things I sat down, I said, you know what? I got to find another space. So in that half day, I just jumped on Kijiji. If you're listening to me in the States, it's kind of like a Craigslist, just without all the crazy people butchering people and putting them in their freezers on their personal ads. And I just looked for space, shared space, short-term leases, that kind of thing. And then I was seeing some stuff, but, I also have a budget. I don't want to go crazy. And then I sat there and said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to take a few minutes and think about my network. Who do I know? People that I know that are in the real estate business, that are in business, that are other people who know other people. And I made a list of about 15, 20 names. And then I just wrote out what I was looking for. I was looking for some temporary space. I was looking for X amount of square feet. This was my budget. And then I just put out there and said, hey guys, this is what's going on with me right now. I'm looking for this, this, and this. If you know of anyone or if anything comes to mind, please let me know. So I sent that out. 3 days later, looks like we found a space. We made a deal. was actually pretty cool. A bunch of episodes ago, one of my early guests was Steve Cody, who then was just talking about a new company he was starting called Ruckify, which is basically a group sharing for renting things among people, that kind of stuff. And he actually was able to find a spot through someone he knew that had some extra space that was willing to do a little mini sublease. And it turns out it's going to be Ruckify's first real estate deal. So that worked out really cool. I went and saw the space, main level. It's got everything I need. It's bigger than what I have. It's short term, right? So this way, if I outgrow it, it's a short notice for me to move on, and vice versa for the people I'm working the space with as well. But the important part is a couple things happened. I recognized that my energy was shit and things were just not going the way I wanted to go. So I knew I had to look at things. And as I started to break down what are some of the issues I need to resolve, and I started to reverse engineer what I need my day to start to look like again, some possible solutions came up. And in knowing what they were, I was able to take some action and put some things into play and get some stuff done. But that never would have happened if I didn't, recognize the signs and say, hey, this isn't working, right? I'm not myself. And I'm definitely not in a position where I'm going to be able to grow the business or scale the business, right? Or enjoy my business, my life, or whatever. So it was really about recognizing what was happening and having, I don't know what the courage to say, hey, you know what? Let's just put everything on hold for half a day and let's look at this. And in doing that, I was able to sit down and think clearly for a little bit. Because when we have a lot of fires to put out, whether they're good or not, right? We have a lot of good fires going on. We have a lot of good activity happening with the brand and the business and stuff like that. So I'm not complaining about that at all. But too much of a good thing also becomes an issue. But taking that minute, that step back, putting myself in a physical position, meaning removed from everything, where I could sit down, take a piece of paper, and just start writing and start thinking clearly without looking at 20 emails just coming in, without looking at a bunch of messages that just came in, without having clients at the front counter needing to talk to me, and I definitely don't want to ignore them, so I can't sit there and ignore them if I'm physically there. So I had to remove myself. I know one of the things my wife was saying, well, is there no room in the gym where you could do this? And it's not. The whole 13,000 square feet we have is where we were using it for what we do for programming and stuff. But even if there was, being able to have a separate location, to be able to remove myself from the day-to-day activity, the flow, to be able to step back and work on some other things more focused and uninterrupted has a tremendous amount of value. And I know for me, one of the things that I've realized a long time ago, if I'm in one position too long, if I'm, behind the counter all the time, if I'm, doing the same thing over and over again, for me, I feel very stagnant and I feel very claustrophobic. I need to have a little bit of variety. I'm that kind of guy that has to have a few things going at the same time because that's how my mind works and that's where I build energy from. So if I'm too much focused just on one thing, it actually has the opposite effect for me. It actually, makes me feel more ineffective and I just get uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't work at my best. So having a spot to be able to go to separate myself for a bit, sort of switch hats a little bit, right, has more of an empowering factor for me as well. So that's exciting me as well. But the thing is, it's in taking those steps. Now, there's still a lot of work to do. I still have to move some stuff. I have to do some different things. But I know now by getting that going, then I can create some space throughout my day because typically for me, I have a fair amount of space of time between 10 a.m. and let's say 2 p.m. where I'm not teaching in the morning. I'm not back into the evening. I run around a little bit and stuff like that. But because I couldn't get access to my printing equipment during that time, I wasn't able to use that time effectively. So it's when I sat there and I sketched out what my day looks like and what I want it to be and how I wanted to do it, that's where the solution started to appear right in front of me, basically. It was just a matter of, tweaking them, massaging them, and see where they go overall. But that's the thing, that the whole lesson for today, kids, is to pay attention to your energy, how you're feeling. If you're feeling tired and run down, right? I mean, the obvious things are you need to be working out, you need to be eating better, which I'm doing. But in self-assessing, realizing that I wasn't happy and that things were getting oppressive and stuff, I knew that something had to be changed. And deep down, I knew a lot of the reasons why, but I was so busy that I wouldn't hear that voice. And sometimes you just don't have time to listen to that. And a big part of what I do sometimes is that when I look at a couple of big projects, I'm big on like, fuck it, we're just going to work 20 hours a day for the next 2 weeks and we're going to move mountains and we're going to get shit. And once we're on the other side, we can take a break, right? Again, one of my talents, one of my superpowers, but the other thing too is that it's easy to get stuck there and to sit there for too long, to get caught up in it overall. We have a term that we like to use in the entrepreneurial world is we want to try to focus to work on our business as much, if not more, than in our business. If we want that business to grow, if we want to scale that business, if we want it to go to the next level, we have to be able to work on our business. And that's what was happening. I was getting caught up working in my business. So one of the rules I've set now too is that if I am closing the gym, I leave at 10. I jump in the car and I head home. And I want to be in bed by 10:15, 10:30. Maybe not sleep right away, right? Maybe read a book, maybe watch a little bit of TV, right? Maybe, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. Or get turned down anyway and then move on to the book or the TV, whatever happens in the natural course of things. But make an effort to put myself in a different environment that's going to help me catch up on my energy. It's going to help me get back into a positive cycle. So the last two nights, that's what I focused on. Now, yesterday I got up at 4:15 in the morning. At 4:30 I left. I drove to Montreal to bring some equipment back from our last meet. That's about 2.5 hours one way. Drove back, had traffic on the way back. So I had a long day yesterday, crazy day, back in the gym, teaching and stuff. But I managed to get to bed earlier on Sunday night as well. And I did the same thing last night. And I'll tell you, just in those 2 days, I woke up this morning easier. I sat up faster, and I got into my ritual quicker. And now, it's not that 2 days is going to reverse the last 8 weeks of mayhem, but it's also knowing mentally that I'm back into a good groove, and I'm working a positive groove. And I know I'm taking action to resolve some stuff that has to be resolved. And that is super powerful. When we know that we're taking the steps to make things better, it makes a huge difference on our mindset, on our energy flow. Because realistically, we know we're not going to solve it in the first 2 days, but we know when we're back on track and we're working things positively, right? That once we have that going, then we know that this is going to get better in 2 more days, in another week, in 2 more weeks. And that's the key, guys. We got to monitor our energy. If you're not feeling like you can kick fucking doors down, jump out of bed, right? If you're not feeling like you're fucking at any given moment, you can fucking fuck or fight, then you need to sit back and look at what you're doing and not doing. Health is the very first thing we have to do. We have to move, we have to breathe, we have to eat better. That's the key. But then we have to look at the other things in our life. What's burning up our fuel? What's taking up our energy during the day? What's taking our focus up during the day? Is it positive? Is it moving us towards something? If it's not positive, is it something short term? If it's not positive, is it something that we know we're going to work towards a resolution on it? Because if it's not positive and we're not trying to resolve it, then we're fucked. And there's a lot of you guys out there that are going through this fucking merry-go-round, right? This loop of insanity, and you fucking know it, but you haven't made a change, right? You haven't stuck your foot out to try and fucking break the momentum. Sometimes you have to jump off that fucking Ferris wheel or that merry-go-round for a minute to take a look at things and decide how you're going to get back on overall. So super important. If you're waking up in the morning and the last thing you want to do is get out of bed, something's up. If you're waking up in the morning and you're thinking about all the shit you have to deal with and it's in your head, something has to be done. You should get up in the morning and want to get up. You should get up in the morning and want to attack that fucking day. At least 21 out of 22 days, for sure. And I'll tell you right now, guys, if you're not, then you need to take a minute. You need to remove yourself from everything for half a day. Take a pen and paper and literally take a line right down the fucking middle On the left, you write good. On the right, you write bad. And you just start writing everything that's going on in your life on either side of that column. And then what's good, you try to focus more on. What's bad, you start to address. And you just work that fucking list. Don't try to solve it overnight once you have that list, because that list can be fucking overwhelming. What you want to do is when you look at that list, and this is what I did, when I looked at that list, I'm like, what's the 1-2 things I can do that'll have the biggest effect on the situation right now, on this feeling of overwhelm and this feeling of tired? So for me, it was changing a few things so I can get out of the gym and get straight to bed. And then it was looking at what's the one thing that was affecting me business-wise that I was getting behind on. I looked at my printing, the branding and stuff like that. I said, I'm going to attack these 2 things. This is what I'm going to work on for the next 2 weeks. And once those 2 are resolved, I'm going to go to the next couple of things. And then be honest with people. Say, you know what? I'm overwhelmed right now. I can't get to this. I can't resolve this for you for another week or 2. 9 times out of 10 people are going to be cool with it. Right? They might not like it. And some people are unreasonable. But fuck it. That's just the way things are. But if you can be honest and say, listen, this is what's going on. I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball right now. I promise I'm going to get to you in the next week on this. But then you got to fucking make sure you get that done within the next week. And if another group of problems come up, then you tell that group of problems, I need 2 weeks before I can get to it. Right? Give yourself some space to work on stuff. But commit to that. Right? And it's okay to say, no, I can't do that right now. Because again, we're one person. We're only human. People that try to get things done tend to overpromise a bit or a lot. And then if we get overwhelmed, then we start to fucking underdeliver. And no one really, I think, intends to be that way, but that's what happens. So sometimes we need to take off small bites, get them done really well, move on to it. And what's really cool when I was doing this exercise, there's a few things I sat there and said, you know what? I haven't got time for this right now. I'm going to shelve this for 6 weeks, 6 months. And it's okay to do that. But until you stop and look at things, you don't always appreciate or notice what those situations are. I had one buddy who called me up the other day. He goes, oh, we need to do this, this, and this, that kind of stuff. And I just honestly, I paused for a second and I just told him, I said, man, I got so much on the go right now. I'm in the middle of this trying to catch up on things and I'm tired. I have no interest in this for at least 6 months. He goes, well, if we don't do it, we may never do it. I go, that's okay. That's all right. He didn't like that answer, but it was the truth. Right? I'd much rather have a little disappointment at the beginning because I can't do something or I have to say no to someone or a situation than have a big fucking disappointment down the line that costs time, money, energy, goodwill, friendships. Because that's what happens. We let things go too long, too far. That's the collateral damage that's just not fucking worth it. And we got to get back to things like if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. But again, it all comes around to, guys, monitor your energy. Get on top of things, and if your energy's down because you're not taking care of yourself, that's the first thing you have to do. Go for a walk. Hop on a bike. Walk on a treadmill. Get some movement going. First things first, man. Get that shit happening. 30 days from now, you're going to have more energy physically, which is going to allow you to deal with other things more effectively overall. But at the end of the day, evaluate. Every morning when you get up, honestly, fucking lay there, open your eyes, and think, am I excited for today? And if it's a no, then write down, take some time, and figure out why. And then work on that. Guys, that's all I have to say on that for now. Head on over to iTunes or at the end of this episode. Leave us a 5-star rating, positive review. Head on over to hostilegear.com. Use the code Silverback to save 20% off some cool stuff. Listen, if you have friends that are on the Androids, let them know that we are now on Stitcher. Now they can become cool too, and they can listen to the Silverback Blueprint on Stitcher on their favorite archaic device. I shouldn't say that. Some of the new Android phones are pretty fucking sweet. You know what's driving me crazy about my iPhone? The fucking volume on that shit. You can't hear nothing on it. Full blast. Drives me crazy. And then these new Android phones, what are they? The S700 or whatever? I don't know. These things are like fucking boom boxes now. It's crazy. Anyway, sorry, Apple. Don't get mad at me. Fix your phones. Guys, as always, work hard, motherfuckers. And I'll talk to you guys later. Hey guys, listen, thanks a lot for listening to this episode. If you know of someone who could benefit from this specific episode or even from our podcast as a whole, I'd love for you to share with them, bring them into the fold, get them to get to know who we are. As always, guys, with the Silverback Blueprint, my goal is to help as many men over 40 and 50 and into their 60s rebuild their lives and just live to the level that they want to live. And I really appreciate if you could help us spread the message, and that would be fantastic.